All right, let's forget what you learned in history class for just a moment. Seriously, we're not going to talk about muskets and powdered wigs today. Instead, we're going to break down one of the most significant events in world history for what it really was, a catastrophic business failure. So let's open the books on the biggest corporate collapse of the 18th century. And the answer, it turns out, is pretty much everything. I mean, from stakeholder management to crisis communication, the split between Great Britain and its American colonies is a timeless case study in how not to manage a high-value asset. Think of this as a strategic brief, drawn from the ultimate hostile takeover. So to really get this, we need to reframe the players. Let's stop thinking about them as an empire and its colonies for a second, and start seeing them as a legacy corporation and its most profitable division. On one side, you have the British Empire. They're the incumbent market leader, global reach, a dominant brand, you name it. But, and this is a big but, they're facing a serious cash flow problem. On the other side, the American colonies. This is your high-growth division, incredibly profitable, just packed with resources and local talent. But they're also developing a really distinct corporate culture and, a desire for a bit more autonomy. It's a classic business scenario, right? And here is the number that changed absolutely everything. After the 7 Years' War, Britain was sitting on a debt of £130 million. I mean, in today's money, that's trillions. This wasn't just some number on a balance sheet. This was a genuine existential threat to the entire enterprise. So naturally, the boardroom back in London had one single focus: find new revenue streams and find them fast. And of course, they turned their eyes to their most successful division across the Atlantic. Now, the problem wasn't that they needed money. The problem was how they chose to go about getting it. And this is what led to a series of top-down corporate mandates that just completely misunderstood the situation on the ground. You have to think of these not as taxes, but as disastrous policy changes rolled out from headquarters without any local input. So, first up was the Stamp Act. In corporate speak, this was a brand new internal service fee just slapped on the American division. Imagine your company's leadership suddenly demanding a cut of every single internal transaction without even talking to the local managers. It was seen as a huge overreach, a fundamental change to the whole relationship. And when that backfired, did London listen? Nope. They doubled down with the Townsend Acts. This was like HQ slapping massive tariffs on the very supplies its most profitable division needed to function. It wasn't just disruptive, it felt predatory. It was a clear strategy of extraction, not investment. So here's the critical point, the huge miscalculation. London believed it was entitled to all the revenue from its American division, but felt absolutely no obligation to give that division a voice in any major decisions. They wanted all the profits without any of the partnership. And that's a fatal flaw in any business relationship. So, what happened? Predictably, the American division, your key stakeholders, began to push back. And when their feedback was just consistently ignored, that pushback got organized, it got strategic, and it got incredibly effective. And this, no taxation without representation. This wasn't just some catchy political slogan. This was the clearest piece of stakeholder feedback you could possibly imagine. It was a mission statement, plain and simple, saying, hey, we're not going to contribute to a system where we have no voice. And London, well, they completely failed to listen. And just look at how they responded. This wasn't just random rioting. It was a coordinated corporate campaign. They organized boycotts, that's a total consumer revolt. They formed groups like the Sons of Liberty. Think of them as an activist shareholder group, putting immense pressure on the board. They even created shadow management teams like the Stamp Act Congress to align their strategy. This was a sophisticated, well-run campaign of resistance. Now, faced with this kind of organized dissent, a smart leadership team would de-escalate, right? They'd listen, they'd adapt, they'd find some kind of compromise. But British leadership? They did the exact opposite. They just doubled down on their failing strategy. And you can see on this timeline exactly how the whole relationship just spiraled into total system failure. The Boston Massacre, that's basically a workplace violence incident that spun out of control. The Boston Tea Party, an act of supply chain sabotage, protesting a policy that favored the parent company. And each response from London was just more punitive than the last, escalating the conflict until the whole system hit its breaking point. The intolerable acts? Well, they were the final straw. This was a draconian governance overhaul. London literally shut down Boston's port, a key economic engine, revoked local autonomy, and essentially declared martial law. In corporate terms, this is when HQ fires the entire local management team, locks the doors, and tries to run the division by sheer force. It made any kind of reconciliation totally impossible. Which brings us to the final act, the Declaration of Independence. This wasn't just a declaration of war. It was the founding document of the ultimate hostile spin-off, listing every single grievance and every strategic failure of the parent company. It's the ultimate exit interview, and it's full of critical lessons for any leader today. So what's the real takeaway from this 250-year-old business failure? The lessons are timeless. First, listen, and I mean really listen. The colonies gave direct feedback for a decade, and London ignored every signal. That is a fatal error. Second, grant real autonomy. London tried to micromanage its most innovative division, and in doing that, they started to destroy the very value it created. And third, share governance. When your partners have a voice in the decisions that affect them, they become invested in shared success. Britain's failure to do any of this, their choice to dominate with force instead of de-escalating with empathy, that was the final catastrophic mistake. Which really just leaves us with one final question for every leader out there to consider. Take a hard look at your team, your partners, your customers. Are they aligned with your mission? Are they invested in mutual success? Or are they quietly, or maybe not so quietly, feeling unheard, unvalued, and starting to draft their own Declaration of Independence? Because the answer to that question could define the entire future of your enterprise.